Cool. We're good to go. What's up, guys? Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Elliot. Nice to meet you guys.
Hi, Elliot.
Hey. So I wanted to talk tonight a little bit about, and I'll keep this as brief as possible so that everybody can talk and discuss. But I wanted to talk about doing well by doing good for the planet, for yourself, and for the people around you, and about how we can provide for ourselves in very interesting, unique ways by tapping into the fundamentals of nature. So this quote by Peter Diamandis: when I think about creating abundance, it's not about creating a life of luxury for everybody on this planet. It's about creating a life of possibility. It's about taking that which was scarce and making it abundant. So in terms of scarcity in the world, there is a huge inequality in resource distribution. So, I mean, as everybody in this room probably knows, the top 0.7% owns 98.7% of the wealth in the entire world. It's absolutely astronomical. And then the other 3.2 billion people own about 68%. Oh, sorry, 3% of the total world wealth. So it's absolutely insane, the income distribution and whatnot. And in fact, when related to land mass, for example, of the entire United States, 40% would own a tiny dot on the tip of Texas, like a teeny tiny little dot. 1% would own the vast majority of the entire United States. The income distribution is insane. And it's wild that these billionaires invest money into things that don't contribute to the bottom line. There's this concept of the new billionaire that I really, really enjoy and really want to espouse, and it's somebody that instead of making $1 billion, or instead of having one of those $1 billion unicorns, it's somebody that impacts 1 billion people in a positive way. It's a really, really good concept, and a new concept of social entrepreneurship. So, speaking of social entrepreneurship, one of the things that I want to convey to you tonight is different projects that I'm doing, and thematically, how I'm researching into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So, you guys familiar with the psychological concept? It starts off with physiological needs, food, air, water, shelter, then moves on up into safety, love, belonging, community, and then finally like self-esteem, confidence, and self-actualization, where you can actually reach your full potential as a human being. And so what I really want to do is make sure that the bottom rungs of the ladder are easy for people to cover. For the vast majority of low-income Americans in the world, it's very hard for them to accomplish physiological needs, safety needs, and then to be a part of a community. So that's what I really want to focus on, and through that, do good things for 1 billion people. Oh, and the most fundamental need of all, Wi-Fi. So, in terms of how people spend their money, this is actually like a really intriguing concept. You have housing, healthcare, food, insurance, other things, like there's an entire list of the breakdown of funding, but the vast majority of what you spend your money on, month to month, is rent, housing, shelter, right, and then food. And then the rest of all that is just miscellaneous additional things. If you have food, shelter, air, water, your needs are pretty much met. And if they're met month to month to month, then you can focus on more creative concepts and further reaching ideas. So when considering this entire circle, the vast majority, besides healthcare, is actually things that we can tap into biological, natural organisms and utilize their processes as a means to overcome these things. So overcome housing, food, other such things in order to have self-sustaining ecosystems in our own homes. Now, I get a lot of crazy looks when I say stuff like that. And then I bring in something like this. This is a tile made out of mushroom. This is completely grown in a mold and compressed and can actually, in certain instances, be used as structural building material. So what's amazing is when you start tapping into biological functions, you get things like wood, or you get things like mycelium, or you get things like food. And so by tapping into what already exists, we're getting energy from the most fundamental source of life for the entire solar system, which is, and I'll pass this around to everybody, which is the sun. So, I'm going to talk a bit about my research and what I'm doing, the general concepts that we're working on in Indie Lab, which is a community that I helped build as a means to get at these projects. So the sun itself is the main source of energy for the entire planet. So the more that we can tap into that fundamental energy source and use it for all sorts of different things, the more beneficial it will be. So in Indie Lab, we're working on a concept called bubble fusion, which is tapping into the concept of sonoluminescence, where you cavitate bubbles and it produces a spark. Not many people know why. A couple people are using it to create energy, because it produces a massive amount of energy. You use sound waves to create a bubble that collapses very, very quickly and it sparks. It's a crazy, crazy concept. Then clothing. What if we didn't have to go out and buy clothes? What if instead we could grow our own clothes, right? Water. What if you could just put a solar harvester outside and water would condense on the inner plate, and so you could collect water that way? Instead of having to resort to pipes or laying down foundations or doing different things like that, you could use rain barrels. You could use different techniques as a means to start generating that water. Food. So there's this concept that I'm working on in Indie Lab that deals with spirulina. Spirulina is a unicellular algae that grows at an exponential rate in 4 to 5 days. And if you have a home aquarium, you can actually produce enough food for yourself, because its doubling rate is so fast and its nutritional content is so much that harvesting just a little bit of it at a time is enough to be an adequate meal replacement, or it will be soon in the future. Sleeping. So a lot of people need sleep. They need somewhere to sleep. There's a concept that I'm working on with a couple of people at Indie Lab where it's placing transcranial direct current stimulation, or electrodes on your scalp, and using small electrical current as a means to generate REM waves. It's something that people have been doing as a means of therapy to treat depression, addiction, and increase memory, retention, concentration. It's actually a very intriguing concept, and further expansion of that would be transcranial magnetic stimulation, getting into deeper regions of the brain. Waste. So toilet 2.0. Everybody poops. It's something that we learn at a very young age through books or whatever, through trial and error. Everybody poops. What if we could use poop in a different kind of way? What if we could use toilets in a different way? I mean, we're basically still using the same hole in the ground that we have ever since humanity has started. And shelter. So what I've been passing around is mycelium tile. That fundamental 50% of most people's incomes go to housing. What if you could grow your own house rather than having to resort to crazy building costs? 40% of the world's resources go to construction costs and construction materials. Yeah. So, let me talk a bit about this tile then, because this is the main concept that I'm working on right now. So this is a platform technology, and given the right substrate that it grows upon, and you have one of those substrates that we're working on right there. So this is PLA. It's a hard bioplastic polylactic acid. And so what we're working on is different ways to grow mycelium as a brick so that it can then be stackable, be moldable, can be put in different kind of places, different kind of shapes, and do a trial run with a tiny home project. So mycelium eventually can be used to replace a ton of different kind of thermoplastics, as well as concrete, asphalt, brick, ceramic, and wood. So, next up, the next step in Maslow's hierarchy is community. Once you have all these basic needs met, which are the different projects that we're working on, you need a kind of community where you can innovate and interact with. So enter Indie Lab. This is the intersection of art, science, and business, where you're given new tools as a means to kind of capitalize on your ideas, whatever that might be. And so we don't take any intellectual property, we share all our communal expensive lab equipment, and then members buy into this community. It's kind of third track rather than industry and academia. I've been working on that with Grace over there. Yeah. So, success kid, using sustainable science, we will solve the world's problems. So thank you. We are called to be architects of the future and not its victims. And I kind of call to all of you to help me out building these sustainable science technologies as a means to circumvent the cost of human life and to redistribute global inequality. Thanks. Yeah. What's up?
Do you have a site for your tiny mycelium house yet?
I do. I'm working on a website. I'm working on making it a little more substantial, but if you go to viddesignGroup.com, you'll be able to find stuff.
I meant an actual physical location.
Oh, yeah. I think you made a website. We do not yet. Right now, we're working on building out the laboratory space, particularly in the warehouse that I was talking about before. And so one of the biggest problems is that a lot of university labs, when you tell them you want to grow giant mushroom structures, they look at you like you're crazy, and they don't really have space or time or energy or intellectual capital to devote to that. And so we had to establish a lab on the outside, and that's where Indie Lab comes into play. So we have a small space, but I'm definitely looking for a more permanent site to test these things out.
Okay. We can talk.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, Drew?
Have you studied like other similar, like I guess maker spaces around the country and kind of learn, you know, some best practices and what they do?
Yeah. So Grace and I actually took a trip all over. We went to all over the East Coast, and then I flew out to California. But we took a look at GenSpace in New York, which is one of the first DIY biolabs that has been established. Then we went to Baltimore Underground Science Space in Norfolk. We went to Charlottesville, which has the Open Biolabs, which just opened up. And then Biologic in Norfolk, and BioCurious out in California. So all of those, we gathered a lot of research into what it takes to be a sustainable lab. And we think that there's definitely intellectual capital enough in Richmond, people who are involved in STEM, yet stray away from it later on. Community college professors who don't have access to lab, artists who want new scientific tools for discovery and originality in new mediums, entrepreneurs who are working on different science startups, and then also like people who just want to learn. People want to do cool stuff like grow mushroom houses and stuff. So the climate is right, the opportunity is right, and we have a bunch of friends out there that we can reach out to help out too. Which is good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, another question. How did the opportunity come to get the space that you're currently in now?
So it was completely by happenstance, which is why I was saying before I kind of like fell into it. So used to be the Sustainable Technologies Institute. Right now Indie Lab is based in a garage, right? And so we've been doing a lot of work on the garage itself. And then it chanced upon this warehouse space right by Virginia Union because it used to be the Sustainable Technologies Institute, and they moved out in order to start establishing a larger aquaculture place. And they sublet it to some people who started throwing raves. Those tenants got evicted, and my friend had been working with Sustainable Technologies Institute and now is trying to find other tenants. And he knew I was looking to make a community. So we're working together to start creating a community where people can get access to new tools for making, creating, and starting their own small businesses. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let me know. We'll be sitting right here, probably there. But yeah, you guys can feel free to play with this stuff too. I mean, like this is pretty durable. I can step on it and jump on it and stuff. Okay. It's pretty springy too. Yeah. Thank you.
You make a mattress out
It'd
of
be
that?
a good floor for like aerobics.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Fitness.
Or children's playgrounds.
Yes.
Because people are looking for mattresses that, like memory foam kind of mattresses that are non-toxic.
Oh yeah.
There you
People
go.
like Kayla.
Oh, interesting.
A running track.
A running
That's
track. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thanks, guys.
I think so.
I can keep on recording if you want.
Sure.
I don't know how much memory.